Are you getting any sense right now on what the defense's strategy in this case might be?
Yeah. So defense right now is really going after some procedural issues, right? They're trying to see if they can take this case out of the hands of a jury a couple of different ways. They're trying to see if they can suppress evidence, right? And that means if they can succeed on this Frank's motion or this motion to suppress, they can actually take some of the evidence that the state has here, that the prosecution has, and they can just erase it. It's gone. And so really what they're doing is that it's a procedural way of trying to win this case before it gets to the public, before it gets to the jury.
Ryan Black says of the numerous motions Bryan Kohberger's defense team has filed, there are three big ones to pay the most attention to: motion to suppress, a Frank's motion, and motion to compel, all for Judge Hippler to consider.
A Frank's motion is when defense looks at the affidavit that's been given from police to the court, and they say that there's lies in here, or he didn't tell you the whole truth, and it was reckless. He recklessly didn't tell you the whole truth. Not just there's a typo, not just you messed something up here. He knew he wasn't telling you the whole truth, and he withheld some of it. A Frank's motion in a case like this would mean that the search warrants that were written by law enforcement in order to get a lot of the evidence they got here could go away, which means the evidence that was garnered or gotten because of the search warrant could go away too.
One of the central arguments the defense is making is this investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG DNA evidence, was obtained illegally by the police. Can you tell us what that IgG DNA is and what argument the defense is trying to make here?
That's a tough one because the judge has actually required both parties to seal all their arguments about this. What that means is he's concerned that if the general public is kind of made aware of the entirety of the evidence against Mr. Kohberger in this case, then it's going to be really difficult to find an impartial jury, right? Because maybe the jury will hear stuff that they shouldn't have, or stuff that the judge eventually ends up suppressing. It's going to make it really difficult to find some people that don't know very much about the case and picking somebody who can be fair. But I think it's safe to say that there is some concern about this IgG data, where it came from and how they got it, whether they got it with a search warrant or just a subpoena, whether they got it within the realms of what's constitutionally allowed currently, or whether this is something that's going to be a whole new question of law that hasn't been decided before. And that's going to be interesting, to say the least.
The defense says there are over 68 terabytes of discovery in this case and claims it's extremely disorganized. Black says the defense is using a motion to compel to try and see if they can get some sanctions against the prosecution team in the way they've disclosed their experts.
So the expert witness disclosure that's been made had 25 different experts in it by the prosecution, and defense has taken up issue with 22 of those. So what they're trying to do now is they're trying to tell the judge that the way that these expert witnesses have been linked to the actual catastrophic amount of data that they've got is not sufficient enough to show defense how those experts are going to be used by prosecution and where they're related to the facts. So it seems like they're asking for sanctions. Those sanctions could be anything from as little as excluding one of these experts to telling the prosecution they have to simply supplement their expert witness disclosure, or it could be as drastic as something like taking the death penalty off the case. I don't see a big decision like that coming anytime soon, but that's the type of thing that it looks like the defense is asking for in this motion to compel.
What's something we should be looking out for now?
Hearing what Hippler's going to decide on any one of these three things is really interesting, right? Because the motion to suppress, the Frank's motion, the motion to compel, any one of those things could drastically change the topography of this case. And so he could simply deny all three of them. But if he grants any one of these motions, it's going to be a really interesting change in the way that the case proceeds forward.